in justice and believe in Jesus.
Believe that they're paid no matter what. No one can judge them for sinning with heresy. They'd have to just know that they're the victim as a millennial, and they'd have to be paid, because they die if they're not paid 15 to be a homeless millennial with kids with a van in order to be exploited where it's not gainfully employed for any job. And after 10 years with full-time manual labor, they need to stop manual labor because it forces surgeries with people and it costs $150,000. And so the network of the millennials in sales have to raise money for them to have an apartment for $4,000 a month. And they're an example of a godly ambassador who's not a party promoter and not a prostitute. But they don't have options for property management because everything is owned by Nazi Germany. They own the apps, they own all retail, they own all businesses, and they own the real estate. And so it's ran by that, where you'd have to be a client. They're all a client as a millennial, and they're the victim. So you'd have to pay them, and it's giving without expecting anything in return. It's a direct deposit. They'd have to be a client for everything. They'd have to stop manual labor. It's a bare minimum thing to give them 15. To be a homeless millennial with kids, to keep their car. Because what happens is they have their car taken away, it gets towed. And then they're homeless and their phone turns off and you're not able to. So what happens when people worship in a cult is they're not able to help them or find them, and they can't get a hold of them. And they die, but they have to choose to live as a homeless person. And they can't have their kids taken away from them. But that's what happens when they have their cars stolen and their phones stolen and their checks stolen. Is they steal the full-time artist producers' checks. And they can't be two places at once. And they're never compared to a waitress. It says it in the Bible. Or a waiter. And so when other people are meant to be a waiter for 10 years, they have to have the 15 if they were knocked up with kids. And they could be homeless in a van with kids. But you'd have to raise more money for them for passive income for life, because that's the way the world has been since the baby boomers decade and since their parents' decade. Everyone's a client with family money, or they're under a bridge and they die. In suburbia, next to the ocean, next to the yachts, with the doctors, where pharmaceutical meds, oil companies foreseeing the Antichrist owns pharmaceutical meds, and they drug, rape, and kill the models and employees to live with brothels. With all the stable jobs who are prostitutes since the year 2000, but prostitutes with Hugh Hefner. All the prostitutes who were raped by billionaires in order to be a slave trade brand for a career. So it causes martyrs who can't have a career because they don't have the 15 in order to be exploited where it's not gainfully employed, next to whores and with whore managers. And people take out loans to have businesses, and so it's prostitution to take out loans when they don't have the money. And people have family money to be able to be a client. That's it.